Okay, so we all agree that the iPhone's camera is the best camera ever because it's the one you have always with you. And many people are always asking what my iPhone camera settings are. A lot of my friends always come to me and ask me, how do you take awesome photos like you're showing on your Instagram or have as wallpapers? And personally, I have to admit that I'm not the best photographer. I'm no professional at all. I just really like to take photos with a lot of light and dark elements in it. Photos in nature. I love when the sunset drops. I just take normal shots. I don't overexpose or over edit anything. I'd like to keep it natural and clean, but I have some settings that are important that make these shots possible. Different photo and video settings. I'm just gonna share with you how my photo and video settings look. Yeah, take what you want from it. If it's useful for you, go ahead and use it yourself. And I hope that just shedding a light on my camera settings, you can learn from that. You can improve your own photography skills. I have some awesome little tips and tricks as well integrated in this. So yeah, I'm just gonna share with you my iPhone camera settings so you know these too. Okay, so I'm going to share my camera settings, how everything looks and why I have these specific settings turned on. So obviously let's go to settings, and the first thing we need to do is go to camera, and in here let's start with app settings. So photographic styles, not everyone has these, but I have them here on the 17 Pro, and I actually like the bright one a lot because the default one, in my opinion, misses a little bit of brightness, a bit of light, a little bit of exposure. So I went to use the bright one. I don't like too much different color filters which are available in the other ones, but I like the bright one a lot. It's just adding a touch to my photos, which I like. More of the technical stuff here. Record a video. So as you know, I post a lot on social media. For me, what I see the best resolution is 1080p. I like 60 frames per second a lot. It just shows the smoothness of the footage that I take. Some people like 30 frames. I really am a massive fan of 60 frames per second. That's why I have it on. And I chose 1080p because of social media. If I upload 4K or higher, it's getting compressed most of the times. However, I do switch sometimes to 4K if I am in a very beautiful environment, just want to capture more detail in nature or certain buildings, or the light is really good. I switch over to 4K at 60 frames per second. But you obviously can also do this inside of the app immediately, just right there. Then let's have a look at the show PAL formats. I think this is something really overlooked, but this feature is actually really useful if you take videos in environments where there are flickering lights in your footage. Let me show you what I mean. Check out this image. You can see the flickering on the reindeers here. That's something we want to get out, and actually the PAL format helps you with that. So if you toggle that on, you'll get 3 new options in record video section: 1080p, 25 frames per second, and 4K at 25 and at 100. If you select one of these, actually the PAL format will help you remove that flickering of your footage. So instead from going to this, you'll go to this. So no more flickering, but take into account that the frames per second are changed then. Enhanced stabilization, essential. I really think you should have this toggled on all the time. It really helps stabilizing your footage. Action mode in lower light, I have this toggled off. If you toggle this on, it will decrease the stabilization, which in my opinion is essential for action mode to really make full use of action mode. HDR video, I know many people have this toggled on by default. I actually don't like it, and it mostly has to do with the lights are just too hard. And also on social media, I create a lot of content with my iPhone. The HDR content is just too overwhelming. You just see it when videos are shot in HDR on Instagram or other platforms. So I like to keep it simple, stable, and not too bright. Then auto frames per second obviously gives you the choice between 30 and 60 frames per second. So I like that option. A lock camera. So basically what this does is if you're going to zoom in or out, if you have this toggled on, your lenses will be locked. So let me show you how this looks with this feature off. So when I go to video and for example film and zoom in, you will see that it's going to switch to the different lenses here. Just like that. But if I would toggle this on and again we do the same thing here, you can see if I film, it's gonna get locked to that specific lens. In this case, the ultra wide one, you cannot switch to the other ones. So I recommend you to turn this off. And then lastly, lock the white balance. I have this turned on as well, because if, for instance, your environment is changing and you have this toggled off, it's gonna give you really a weird like coloring and lighting, greenish, sometimes reddish colors, and that's really going to disturb the shot. So I highly recommend you to have this toggled on. All right, then let's go to recording in slow-mo. I like to have the highest frames per second in this case, so I chose 240 frames per second just for slow-mo. I just want to have the most frames simply for that reason. Then cinematic. If I shoot in cinematic, for me it's the most important one to have the highest quality, and again the highest frames possible, 4K at 30 frames per second. If 60 frames would be possible here, I would do that. Sound, not unimportant, but really something that a lot of people are overlooking, and that is to toggle on spatial audio. Why spatial audio? This allows you to make adjustments with regards to audio mix. We just filmed this shot. I can now go and make audio mix adjustments, and if you don't have a spatial audio on, you cannot make these adjustments, which I think are essential. If you're familiar with audio mix, it allows you to really focus on the different things that are being said in frame or studio or cinematic. Basically, that allows you to focus more on the voices or the context. Definitely have that turned on. Allow audio playback. So this is personal. If you have, for example, music running on your iPhone and then have this feature toggled on at the same time, when you film, you will also record the audio. And wind noise reduction is a nice little bonus, similar to a wind muffle, but then your iPhone will just try to reduce external wind noises. So don't think it's just something groundbreaking, but nice to have toggled on too. Next, let's go to the format. So this is more of the professional side of things. I toggle on high efficiency and not most compatible. I know there's a lot of debate about these twos, but for me the only reason why people would use most compatible is because it supports older formats. It's an older system. If you're working with older technology, so to say, then that's something that is more important. If you really want to have something that's future-proof, works more seamless across devices, then I recommend high efficiency. It's also much smaller in file size and at the same time provides better quality. So definitely toggle on high efficiency if you want sharper details, more quality. And it's also important for certain use cases, like for example 4K 60 frames per second, and also the 240 frames per second slow motion. And yes, also way less storage is taken. Next, these are actually the pro settings, so this is more for the professionals. So this might be a little bit technical. Photo mode, again, try to put this on 24 megapixel. The difference is just the quality, and obviously the 24 megapixels are going to take more storage, but yeah, definitely worth it for the better quality in my opinion. Then ProRaw and resolution control. Basically, this allows you to control ProRaw in your camera app on top. If we toggle this on, you'll see that we have the option available in top here to change to the raw format in here. The ProRaw formats that we have are at JPEG lossless, JPEG-XL lossless, and JPEG-XL lossy. It's a little bit technical here, but basically JPEG lossless is an older format, a bit similar to what I just explained about most compatible. It captures a lot of the details, like most of the details. You do need most compatible turned on here on top in order to use it. It captures most of the details, but takes also a significant amount of storage. It is limited though in dynamic range and color depth and also the metadata. I would recommend one of these two. These are more modern formats, and if I could recommend one of these, I would go with a lossy. And why lossy is it's just a more compressed version of lossless, but the compressing that you're getting is really minimal. There is almost no loss of quality. The main thing these two have in common, these are just future-proof file formats. You can better handle gradients and change the color precision and the dynamic range of your shots, something professional photographers really value. And lastly, video capture. Just toggle on ProRes if you want to capture all the quality and all the data in your shots, then you need to toggle this on. If you have this toggled on and go to your video section here on top, you can see that you can shoot in ProRes log, Log is a pretty data heavy format, and what it does is it removes Apple's filter. So Apple has filters over their photos and videos. They have their own color style, and what this does is it allows you to really shoot full and naturally, as you can see here, and then add your own colors to your footage, your own style and theme. Maybe some people want it really cinematic, maybe some people want warmer colors or colder colors in their footage. Then you need to shoot in a log, but as you can see here, like I can shoot in 4 hours at 60 frames per second. So as you can see, I can film 4 hours of log footage, which is not a lot for a 1 terabyte iPhone. And yeah, it's highly recommended that if you shoot in log that you have an SSD, an external SSD attached to your device, because if you want, for example, to film in 4K, you need an external storage device because this is so intense. This takes up so much storage. But yeah, this is really for the pros that want to have their own filter, their own themes, and a lot of flexibility and customization possibilities. So that was formats. Now let's go to preserve settings, and this is quite an easy one. I have these all toggled off. So preserve settings just means that it's going to remember the last mode that you used in any of these different adjustments that you made. Then we're coming to some hotkeys. Use volume up for burst. So if you press the volume up, you're gonna shoot in burst mode. I like that a lot. As you can see, you're going to shoot multiple photos. That's one. If you didn't know, volume down is going to film automatically. It's going to use the flash because it's a little bit dark in here. Scan QR codes, obviously, is when you scan a QR code, you're going to recognize it. There you go. It took a while to recognize it, the angle. For me, totally fine to have that. Then show detected text will obviously detect text in your images. In the bottom here, you can see that text icon is gonna show you the text that is detected in your footage. So yeah, nice to have. It's optional, not groundbreaking or revolutionary in any sense. So yeah, I have these all toggled on, and then composition really helps you to stabilize your shots. I highly recommend you to at least have the grid and level function turned on. The grid is for the rule of a third. If you know that, the different grids can help you place your objects on the right spots. That's important. And then the level is in the middle. Make sure that when you take a shot or anything that it's going to get leveled. It's the bar in the middle that indicates when you're shooting something that is not straight. Right, so toggle these on, and then mirror front facing camera. For me, I like this. It makes me look better. View outside the frame will just show you more than what the final photo or video will eventually capture. So yeah, this is really nice to have. Let's take a photo. And then it's basically going to use the other lenses in combination with your actual lens to just show more content. So really nice to have that. Indicators, flash on, live photo on action mode, and dual capture. Just indicators that they are all there when taking a photo. It already looks really minimal. It's not a problem to have some additional options here. We have these toggled on as well. Then we scroll down to photo capture. Fusion camera, toggle on the different lens options. Obviously, you want to use the 1x as much as possible because that one is the highest quality lens that you have. 28 and 35 millimeters are available. So if you press on the 1x, you can see it's going to change to the other 2 millimeter formats. Nice to have, not groundbreaking, but at least make sure your default one is to the 1x 24 millimeters. Portraits in photo mode, highly recommended. Just automatically captures when you take a normal photo. It gives you the option to go to portrait afterwards. Nice to have. Prioritize faster shooting, really important for me because we always quickly take our iPhones out and we really want to quickly snap a photo. It's important that this option is available, that you toggle this option on because it's just going to give you higher image quality. Lens correction, if you have this toggled on, which I recommend also, so that it's going to correct your lens distortion. This just helps with lines and faces and wide shots to just make things look better, more quality, and there's just no warping happening. And just makes your footage more like correct, if that's the right word. Important to note that this has to do with the ultra wide lens, because sometimes the bigger angle, the bigger shot that you take, like warping can happen. You just see more curved edges. Super wide shots sometimes just look a bit weird. Macro control has to do with when you zoom in and out and really want to focus on the details. So it's the little flower that we often see. Some people don't like this. You can then toggle this off and you won't have this option anymore. The control, as you can see, it's going to disappear immediately. But yeah, I like to customize it. I like to play around with it. That's why I have it turned on. Then some new features. Lens cleaning it. When your lens is dirty, you'll get a message saying that you need to clean your lens. Probably remember or maybe had an experience where your lens was dirty. You took photos and then the photos all look terrible. And this feature fixes that. Lock screen to swipe to open camera. If you have camera control, this maybe is a little bit redundant, but yeah, I like to have it. It's just in my nature to just do that from time to time. So really nice to have for maybe also the iPhones that don't have the camera control. It's just a quick way to access your camera. Lastly, in messages, nothing special. Save captures to your photo library. So yeah, if you take photos inside of messages, you have the possibility to immediately save these to your camera roll as well. Next, camera control. You either love or hate the camera control. I actually like it a lot, and I mostly use it for two things. And first one obviously is to immediately launch the camera. The second thing is to long press it and open visual intelligence. But yeah, let me briefly show you how my camera control settings look. So I have the single click enabled, double click not needed. Require screen on is essential. I toggle this on because if you have this toggled off, you can sometimes accidentally launch camera control, and that's something that happened a lot to me in the beginning. So I toggle this on. The screen needs to be on in order to launch camera control. Then I have the camera adjustments toggled on. Let me show you my controls here. I actually turned all the controls off except for the cameras one. Why? Because I think the camera control button is extremely sensitive. All these controls are really precise, and the only one not being so precise is the cameras one. When I launch it and then press it, I can really easily switch to the different lenses just like that. And if I, for example, would have the zoom air or the exposure one, that means that I really need to be precise to select the right amount of exposure. You see how sensitive this is. That's why I actually chose to only have the camera lenses here, a way more easier to control. Also, lock and focus exposure for me not needed. Also, this is something that's really personal. If you really want to lock the focus and exposure, for me not needed. I like the flexibility here. And then lastly, visual intelligence. I like this feature a lot. Press and hold and then you'll launch visual intelligence just like that. We can have a quick look at accessibility. I didn't change any default setting here. Kept it on default, default and default for all the different metrics here. If you don't want camera control, this is also the place where you can turn it off by just toggling it off in here. All right guys, so there you have it, all the settings that I use to take my content to the next level. I hope this was helpful and gave you more insights. I know a lot of people are always asking about these, but there you have it, my full photo, camera, video settings. I hope this was helpful. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, like this video, and see you in the next one. Peace.